Cheezoids, I'm glad you're here. This is the Tower of London, a place that used to be used as a terrible prison. Many people came here a long time ago and had their heads chopped off. I'm not even joking. It's very spooky, but I happen to stay calm and try and keep my head, as I look at Jade, who's interviewing a very important guard.
Welcome back to London on a very typical rainy English day. This here is Alan. How you going, Alan?
Fine, thanks.
And he, Cheezoids, is a beefeater. Where did the name beefeater come from?
Well, actually, we don't really know, to be honest. I mean, it's a historical thing, which is just a nickname. You know, nicknames derived through normal conversation. Many hundreds of years ago, though, it's believed that we were perhaps paid with beer and with beef. Of course, the local people, they could afford beer, they couldn't afford beef. And they would call us, in their conversations, those beef eaters.
Beef eaters. Now, what is your duty as a beef eater here in the Tower of London?
Well, today, particularly, it's really now for tourism, the tourism trade that comes here. We look after the public when they come here. We take them on guided tours, of course. But historically, I mean, years ago, we used to look after the prisoners that were held inside of here, of course. Crown jewels are kept safely stored away here since 1303. So we have to look after those as well.
I hear there's a lot of ravens about. What's the go?
Well, the ravens are actually territorial birds. They used to live here before the tower was even built. And of course, there's a legend that goes with them. If ever they should leave the Tower of London, the White Tower here behind us will actually catch the dust, and there will be a great disaster that befalls the monarchy. In other words, we won't have a king and queen. So we have to maintain a minimum nowadays of 6 birds to make sure that doesn't happen. And we also have spares. So we have 2 spare. Well, up until recently we had 2 spare. One very sadly died last year.
Oh, that's no good. Well, you want to keep them in here. And
we make sure they don't go anywhere because we clip their flight feathers as well.
No problem. Now, has anyone ever escaped the Tower of London?
Well, historically, again, yes, there has. Many ways of escapes. We have fairly well conclusive proof that about 31 or thereabouts have escaped, but in various different guises. Some actually escaped dressed up as ladies. Some used ropes and climbed across the moat. But various different ways, but around about 31.
Now, is it true, have you ever seen Braveheart?
Yes.
Now, is it true that William Wallace's head was sent here?
Not quite,
no.
No? He was held prisoner here, but he was executed elsewhere.
Oh, thanks.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Alan, it's been a pleasure.
My pleasure indeed.
Now, we're off to Pokemon. You ever heard of it?
No, I don't think I have, no.
Okay. Wild creatures.
Is it foreign?
Nasty, yes. Very foreign. I think they're from another planet. See you after this.
Well, the first part of Plan A work, Cheezoids. I'm inside. We crossed the 7 seas to come to this place. Suddenly, Mission Impossible becomes Mission Probable, and we have a toy designer here, but the toy designer, Chris Burt. I'm sorry, Chris, look, I'm gonna slip straight out of Sean Connery right now. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks, Ryan.
Nice to meet you. Listen, tell us, what does you, a toy designer, do?
Basically, I'm responsible, amongst other people, for getting Action Man products onto the shelf and getting the ideas together, which we turn into toys. So basically, we start off just with an idea, which could come from watching a movie or whatever's going on, trends, extreme sports, whatever, and we'll basically knock up a quick drawing or maybe a mood board like this one.
Yeah.
Which basically is just really quickly kind of thrown together from cutting stuff out of magazines or whatever, and we show that to the team responsible for making decisions on what we're going to develop as a toy, and then we can spend some money and actually turn it into a real toy, get models made up, and you end up with a production item on the shelf.
Eat this, Action Man. In 5 seconds, there will be a new world order.
What are you doing? You'll destroy us all!
Now, what is this design here? I mean, it's in pen and ink. Do you do anything on computers and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, we do the whole lot. I mean, this is obviously just, a pen and some markers, but we have a computer-aided design team as well, which we use. So the whole thing, really. But, I mean, most things start off just with a pen and pencil.
Yes! Wow. I get it. Don't you get it, Cheezoids? Something like this, a design like this, actually becomes this. Now, Chris, toy designer, you've got to give some tips to the Cheezoids out there that also want to be a designer.
Okay, well, I guess, I used to love drawing when I was a kid, so I just stuck at it and that obviously helps if you can draw, but you don't have to be able to draw. It's not the most important thing, but I guess it helps. And the other thing is kind of not to grow up too much. I'm still a bit of a kid at heart, and I still get excited when I think of a good idea for a toy. So I guess if you're designing toys, you need to kind of, remember back to how you felt on Christmas morning and what kind of, made it a good toy for you when you were a kid. So that's the other thing, I guess.
Action 4 to Action 1. I need a mission update. Action Command getting frantic. Over.
Mission accomplished. Tell Norris to keep his shorts on. We're coming home.
Quite aware.
This is really absolutely fantastic, and I really want to say how proud I am to be meeting the creator or one of the designers of the Action Man figures. Now, is there anything that you're going to come up with in the future that you can tell us about now?
There's nothing that I can tell you about, I'm afraid, because all the ideas we're working on at the moment are top secret, because we're working quite a way ahead and we don't want our competitors to find out about them. So,
really?
Yeah, I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you, obviously, afterwards.
Well, yeah, I knew all of you corporate types were like that. Nice talking to you, Chris.
Thanks a lot, Ryan.
I don't think I'll be seeing you again, but it really was nice talking to you while we had the time.
Nice one.
Shame we didn't get to know each other a little better, but, well, we have time later.
Cool.
Chris Burt, toy designer. I'll see you right after this.
Welcome to the Cheez Files. I am Warwick Moss and I'm standing in the middle of Greenwich, and this is the last remaining tea clipper of the 20th century called the Cutty Sark. Why is it so important in our historical significance? Well, it transported tea from England to China and China to England, back and forth, but it had to be very seaworthy, fast and sturdy. Otherwise the tea would rot, and we wouldn't want that. Now, there is a very, very interesting story behind its name, Cutty Sark. It was inspired by an old Scottish poem called Tam O'Shanter, written by Robert Burns. The story goes that Tam, a drunken farmer, was riding home one day when he came across a bonfire with witches dancing around it. Now, one of the witches, Nanny, took his fancy because she was wearing a very short shirt, otherwise known as a chemise, otherwise known as a Cutty Sark. Now, it was very strange because he called out, "Hey, Nanny, get over here." You know, because he fancied, "Hey, Nanny, get over here." But they didn't respond the way he liked. They started chasing after him, and he didn't like that one bit, so he galloped off. Now, he came across a river which was flowing very rapidly, and he realised that if he tried to cross this river, the witches would not follow, because everyone knows witches do not like crossing running water. They never do it. They hate the stuff, just like cats. Anyway, he galloped off. He was running as fast as he can on the horse, and then Nanny was approaching him from behind. She was running up like this, he's doing a big sprint, and then she clutched hold of the horse's tail and dragged it off like that, and the horse galloped away without its tail. So she was left there standing with some horsehair in her palm like that. And that is why the ship is called the Cutty Sark. Now, if you check the bow figure, you will notice that its hand is outstretched with some horsehair hanging off. Warwick Moss. See you in the future. Is that alright? You like that?
I ended up doing for the week. Hello and welcome to the Cheez News, and can I say how great it is to be back?
Yeah, that goes for me too.
I didn't realize you went anywhere.
Oh yes, yes.
And who was reading the news? In fact, moving on, and it's over to Mark the Sound Man with a very old story.
Cheezoids, meet a very special old lady. I like to call her Doris. Doris is more than 160 years old, can you believe? But that's not her only claim to fame. You see, back in 1835, Doris was captured by a very famous scientist fellow, Charles Darwin. Now, Charles discovered a lot about the world. Anyway, he took Doris back to Great Britain for some research. And here she is now, 160 years later, back in Australia. What a grand old lady. Mark the Sound Man, your anthropology specialist. Cheez News.
That is amazing. I bet Doris would have a few stories.
If she could speak. Moving right along, we know you don't like anything better on Cheez TV than a story you can really sink your teeth into.
Well, Cheezoids, we know it's customary to get all dressed up for a wedding, but did Christopher and Jacqueline go too far? You see, they were married recently, and Christopher dressed up as a Dracula. Jacqueline got dressed up as something scary too, and there was Elvis there, the Joker, the Riddler, Marilyn Monroe. Everybody got dressed up and had a whale of a time. What a funny wedding. Afterwards, they had sausage rolls and lamingtons, and later on, Christopher bit Jacqueline on the neck, just like a vampire does. Apparently, he's allowed to now because they're married. Mark the Soundman had a very funny wedding. Cheese News.
Whatever next? Whatever next, I'll tell you whatever next. The new Pokemon movie. You got to catch it.
Cheezoids, you'll never guess where I am. No, I told you wouldn't guess. I'm at the LA premiere of the new Pokemon movie. That's right, all the stars from all around the world, such as myself, Mark the Soundman, gathered in Los Angeles recently to see the premiere of the Pokemon movie. That's right, all the stars were here. Oh, it was a fantastic event, and they had sausage rolls for everyone. It was a great day out. And guess who else was here? That's right, Billy Crawford. Who's Billy Crawford, you might ask? Well, maybe this will jog your memory.
I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test. Train them is my cause. There you go.
That's right. Billy sings the theme song. Let's hear it again.
To catch them is...
Okay, that's enough, Billy. Good on you, son. Oh, it's exciting stuff. The Pokemon movie's about to take over the world. Mark the Soundman, or as some like to call him, the Angela Bishop of children's television, for Cheese News.
Mark, you have a hard job.
I know it's a tough job, guys, but someone's got to do it.
Yeah, we weren't there, were we?
No, you weren't. There was no need.
Well, speaking of Pokemon, here they are. Here it is. You know, Cheezoids, when we usually have best-selling international authors on the show, we usually have big, bold pictures up and behind, and this time we just have the book and the man. His name is John Larkin, and he's written Pizza Features. John, how are you?
I'm well, Ryan.
Nice to meet you, my friend.
You too.
Tell us about Pizza Features.
Okay, Pizza Features was a sequel to my first novel, Spaghetti Legs, which is part of an autobiographical trilogy I'm doing. We have Pizza Features, Spaghetti Legs, and Lasagna Brain, which is coming out next year.
Which one is your favourite, do you think?
At the moment, Pizza Features, because each book you write, you get better.
Yeah.
I think each book I'm doing, I'm getting better as a writer, more professional.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think Pizza Features is my best book to date.
Wow, that's amazing. And what is it exactly about it do you like about Pizza Features?
Well,
if that was pronounced properly.
Because, yes, it's right. Pizza Features is correct. It's about me, and it's about a guy who's a bit good at a lot of things, but not really good at one thing.
Right.
He's almost a loser, almost good at sport, almost good with the girls.
Knows a lot about, you know, everything, but
not quite there. He misses out on everything. So he's me.
Oh, I see.
So every book is autobiographical, and hey,
amazing.
It's me looking at me.
A bit of an Italian touch.
Well, my nickname at school was Spaghetti Legs.
It was Spaghetti Legs, was it?
Obvious reasons.
Oh, yes.
As you can see.
Thought it was the skin-tight jeans you were wearing.
No, because I was tragically thin.
Really?
And people
I've
used
got
to call
thin
me...
legs. Look at this. You think these aren't thin? Like a couple of matchsticks poking out of the box. You see that?
Very matchsticks.
Yes. It's disgusting. What do you think you're on this show for, eh? But to talk about this book, not about my legs, all right? Now, what are some of your inspirations for Pizza Features, do you think?
I like writing for teenage boys because it's a market that's really not focused on too much. You ask teenage boys they like reading, they say, no, it's daggy, it's uncool. But I think it's now turning around. We're now showing that reading is kind of cool, and teenage boys are now starting to read again, which is really, for me, is lovely. It means, hey, I get more sales.
Starting to live again, that's what it means, right?
They are, yeah.
All of those readers out there?
Absolutely.
All right, so do you think this is a good one for the classroom, do you think?
The classroom,
this is a good English book?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's a good English book because it looks at all facets of suburban life. You know, I'm a boy from the suburbs, my characters are from the suburbs. So, yeah, I write about real people.
Beautiful. Dr. John Larkin talking about his book, Pizza Features, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back. You're watching Cheez TV. We're hanging out with Kazza and Mr. John Larkin. How you going?
I'm well, Jade. How are you?
I'm very well. John, tell us about Eric Underwood, the star of Pizza Features.
Eric Underwood, he's a boy from the suburbs. He's like me. He grows up with a Hills horse, strange family, and he observes them. He's just an average kid doing average things. He's a bit of a loser, not quite there. Hey, it's me. Of course he is. Hey, but I make a good life from writing now, so I don't mind being a loser. It helps.
Come on, Johnny,
It
it's
helps
all
to be
right,
a loser
mate.
growing up because, hey, this is what I get out of it. Full-time writer.
That's
Get to meet
right.
people like this.
That's right. John, tell us about this book because it's a really a how not to guide to life. I mean, well, just take us through Eric's first date.
Well, guys, if you want to follow a life path, read the book and do the opposite. Eric's first date, disaster beyond belief. Goes to Veronica, takes Veronica Roberts on a date to the beach, abandons her because he gets chased by some thugs for standing on a rescue. He's kilometres away from her and he can't get back to her and she goes home with her ex-boyfriend. Disaster.
Oh, that is disaster. Now, does this all stem from somewhere, John? I mean, did you have a troubled childhood?
Extremely. I had a sister who was essentially a psychopath. And I say that with the utmost respect for psychotic people because she used to stab me with pencils and straws, anything she could get her hands on.
Wow.
And she was totally deranged. And it helps if
Right,
you're a
I've got
writer.
a stepsister
Yeah, well,
too.
it helps to be a writer if you have a deranged sister because it then focuses you on yourself. Recently, I visited her in Perth and she came out with a pair of scissors, but she's a hairdresser. I say that truly.
John, what's going on there? That is crazy. Do you think Eric gets himself into these troubles or is just a generally unlucky guy?
He's like most teenagers, like me. He gets himself in the scrapes. We're not all cool. We're not all there.
That's right.
Eric is a representative of every kid, every parent.
That's true. John Larkin, hope you hang around.
I will.
We like handshaking here at Cheez TV, but right now, here it is, Action